Digital assets like crypto, NFTs and blockchain have caused quite a stir over the last decade, both in popular culture and within multiple different industries. And insurance is no exception. To some a fad, to others the future of currency. How the industry should act towards these often extremely high value but little understood assets is an ongoing and contentious question. Luckily here to shed some light is Glenn Morgan, Digital Assets Practice Leader at Aon. Please welcome to the stage, Glenn Morgan.
Better than the last one, this one, and I just have really enjoyed getting to see some of the really cool ideas out here, and excited to talk to a lot of you after this. But first, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. If you're still sitting here, thank you. We've run over time, and now everyone, I'm holding you up from your drinks. So hopefully, we can make this a little bit faster, have a little bit of fun, and not put you to sleep for the rest of the conversation here. When I got my start working in crypto, it was 2017, and back then I was just the Bitcoin water cooler guy on my floor at Marsh. And since then we've come a long way, thanks to the pioneers and innovators who have been able to really put their heads together and change the infrastructure of this technology from the advances in custody and security. We're really starting to move to a more phase of institutional adoption that we'd all like to see. But look, let's face it, everybody at this point, I'm not a stranger. I know that people have their opinions about who the crypto guy in the room is. So I'm not talking to my usual internet echo chamber. But don't worry, we're not going to sit up here and talk about meme coins or ICOs that your cousin's pitching to you at Thanksgiving about what's going to 100x, or hopefully we're not going to get too technical and put you guys to sleep. But I just wanted to say that here what we're going to focus on is a transformational technology, which I think is going to be part of everybody's lives going forward, especially in the insurance industry. And as the innovators here sitting in the room, it's something that you could really benefit from, especially being on the cutting edge of innovation. So I've used this quote, gradually and then suddenly. It's a Hemingway quote, which was used to characterize bankruptcy, how it can come on us. And ironically, it's actually the title to one of my favorite series of papers about Bitcoin, Gradually Then Suddenly. It's how, it describes how people come to understand how Bitcoin works, and also how government currencies can hyperinflate. But this quote today, gradually then suddenly, using it in a little bit of a different context, and that's much the way that cycles of innovation can happen. And if you're not prepared for them, then you might end up just the same way that Hemingway originally characterized. So before we get to the rest of it, I want to talk to you a little bit more about Aon's digital asset practice. We have a large global practice, placed a significant amount of premium over the years, and it's been a journey being able to work in all facets of the company. Definitely a polarizing topic, punching outside of its weight class, but it's been one of those. It's been a very interesting journey, and why I think we're a bit different here at Aon. So, I started working here in 2021, and when I started, I had helped lead the digital asset strategies for two brokers prior to this, and I was thinking about what's changed, why it's different, and what we need to do. And a lot of the reoccurring problems was that we weren't able to keep up with the rapid changes in the industry. And I'm sure everybody here can commiserate with, insurers are not known for being the most quick and nimble folks to work with. So we'd have to figure out really creative ways to solve problems, but oftentimes we'd still be falling down on ourselves in certain areas. So when we got to Aon in 2022, we worked with McKinsey and helped set up this Web3 growth accelerator through Aon Growth Ventures. And Aon Growth Ventures works like a corporate incubation center, not like a traditional VC, but a strategy where we will bet and invest in industries where we see large growth potential, digital assets being one of them. And because digital assets, seeing such enormous growth potential here, being able to leverage what we have in the Web3 growth accelerator and blend that together with the traditional, more conventional needs and insurance solutions that we can provide to the industry, I think we've been able to provide a more comprehensive offering that the industry is really looking for. So, now that you have a little bit of a picture of Aon, I want to talk about some of the priorities that we've defined through our growth accelerator. We look at staking and smart contracts, but the two that I want to focus on here today are tokenization and on-chain insurance. So what is tokenization? Tokenization, put simply, is the process by recording rights to assets in a tokenized format on-chain. So this could be anything. This could be, equities, T-bills, real estate, or even your firm's IP. So by taking these assets and putting it on chain, you unlock a whole host of new benefits to the access to the assets into financial markets. So let's take a look at some of these benefits. First, we have democratization of access, market fluidity and efficiency, and security and transparency. We'll dive into each of these a little bit. Now, I think it's interesting, as one of my colleagues pointed out to me when we were coming over to Amsterdam. His name is Phil. He's sitting here today. That Amsterdam is the location of the world's first IPO. So, back in 1602, the Dutch East India Company was the first company to ever issue shares to the public. Now, shares of company had been issued privately before, but this is the first time any average investor could come and invest in the Dutch East India Company, and this revolutionized financial markets forever. And, which kicked off a period of prosperity for this part of the world in the Netherlands and in England, and everybody starting to copy and replicate this model. So now looking forward to today, thinking about tokenization, want to look specifically at fractionalization of shares. So let's take Van Gogh, for example, in the fine art market. You guys all know who that is. So Van Gogh, as an extremely expensive piece of art, the art industry is typically reserved for the ultra wealthy. But now, with tokenization, you can take a Van Gogh and fractionalize shares of it on chain. So instead of just one ultra wealthy person being able to buy a Van Gogh, now you have any investors who can get access to these markets, whether they're AML, KYC, being able to now buy a tiny share of ownership of this art. So the access, extremely important. It drives interest in the market. Now looking at market fluidity and efficiency. Staying on the topic of fractionalization, let's take a look at the St. Regis. They recently tokenized shares of their Aspen location. So if you're getting into a real estate transaction, that's typically super complex, long, drawn out. There's lots of things involved with it. And, it often involves the sale of an entire property. Even if you're getting together with a group of investors, you're still having to deal with all these complexities. Now, the St. Regis tokenizes their property, puts it on chain, and immediately there's access to investors around the world who are looking for exposure to an asset type like that. Now, with democratization of access, markets being fluid and efficient, being able to trade 24/7, having access to new sources of liquidity and tokens, there can definitely be a little bit of mania. And we've seen people in crypto make and lose fortunes on accelerated timeframes. But I think that mania is something that's no strangers to anything else in history. Take another Dutch example being the tulip bulb mania of the Dutch Golden Era. In 1634 to 1637, the price of a single tulip bulb went all the way up to 4,000 florins. And in today's dollars, we're looking at something like over $1 million to buy a tulip bulb. Now, fortunately for crypto, we have seen this same mania. We've seen market cycles where prices rise and lower, and you have people worried about all of this, but we're still in a growth market. And fortunately, what we've seen with blockchain, they've come back stronger and more resilient and been able to attract more institutions to it. Now, the last is important: the security and transparency that it provides. You think about, now there's definitely issues with the infrastructure where protocols have seen issues, but what investors love about these tokenized products is that the immutable nature of blockchains be able to give investors confidence that they can't be tampered with, which greatly reduces fraud. So as this infrastructure starts to improve, you have the security in the network, but then you also have the transparency of that network. Think about just being able to see exactly what's happening on chain. So if somebody is able to take advantage of one of these protocols and move assets where they're not supposed to, they're still going to be able to have any type of advanced analytics or forensic analysis who understands what's happening, can see exactly what's going on chain, and be able to reduce the fraud in these markets. So why are we talking about tokenization? I think it only fits here that we can talk about how tokenization can also impact insurance. So tokenization of insurance, what we've done here at Aon is we've partnered up with a company called Names. So Names, what is Names? Names is, they've been affectionately referred to as the Web3 Lloyd's of London. In actuality, what they are is a regulated insurer licensed in Bermuda by the Bermuda Monetary Authority. And it's essentially a smart contract on Ethereum that allows them to issue, settle, pay claims all on chain. So how does that actually work? I know it's a lot to kind of take in one mouthful, and like, why does it even matter? Why is it important? In order to kind of help you guys out here, I think it would be best to illustrate in an example of how this would work. So we want to issue a policy on chain. What do we do? What kind of strategies are we interested? So Aon will go to Names and say, hey, Names, I am very challenged in the marketplace right now. I'm trying to ensure automated self-driving cars, and there's not a lot of demand out here for it, so I want to build my own strategy. So Names would say, okay, great, let's get you, so we're going to do our AML KYC process to get you onto the platform. Once all that clears, then they will accept your business plan. So Names operates as a segregated accounts company, which means that they're able to quickly spin up risk strategies called cells. So these cells are issued, and they'll have their own balance sheet and their own business plan, and can do whatever the sponsor of these cells wants to. So we say we're going to try to insure these flying cars. Names says, what's your business plan? So all right, we give them a tear sheet, says we're going to put up a maximum of $30 million of exposure. We're going to have single policy max limit of $1 million. Our target rate of return is 14%, and so forth, going on and say, okay, good, all right, sounds great. They take our business plan, they go to the BMA. The BMA says, oh my gosh, flying cars, that sounds awesome. We're in, approved. So once the cell gets established, everybody with me so far? All right, see some heads shaking. We'll try to get better. So once the cell's established, then the cool part is that they can go out and raise money to finance that selves, but it does not have to come from insurers or reinsurers. It can come from any alternative capital provider. So hedge funds, private equity, alternative asset management, RIAs, family offices, you name it, whoever can get approved to be on the platform can then invest in this cell who's looking for this uncorrelated return. Once the cell is capitalized, then you can go out, assign a broker, assign underwriters, and start issuing risk to that cell. So I think an important thing to note about this is that these cells do not actually, these policies, while everything is happening on chain, claims are getting paid on chain, there are definitely still parts of this that occur off chain. You're collecting underwriting information, then you're issuing quotes, you're issuing a policy. It still works like a normal insurance contract. Well, I think that's an important delineation is that so you can go out to the market and work with, traditional insurers and your names paper so that you have the ability to, utilize this capacity in conventional stacks of insurance. So, if you're doing, you're getting an off-chain product, like why even use this in the first place? So, let's go back to, what we were initially talking about, where the advantage of here is you're still giving new access to a bunch of different types of investors. You're able to be more secure and transparent. Like, think about your A-rated paper that you have with your insurance company. Okay, great, AM Best says that's A-rated. How about if you can just see what the collateral is on chain for your policy in real time? And then, you're also creating more liquid and efficient markets in that when people are issued policies in these cells, they're given participation tokens where they can then trade in the network with other risk strategies or just get liquidity for themselves. So all of these flexibilities that this platform provides is a good way to look at like how tokenization will evolve. And I think one other important consideration thing that we can do here with this is that we can insure risk in any currency we want to. So as long as it can be on Ethereum, then we'll be able to issue a policy in that. So you're a Bitcoin miner who has business interruption risk for your property. You can insure that and wrap Bitcoin. Or you have staking risk or smart contract risk. You can insure that in ETH. Making sure that your policies are denominated in the currencies that they're exposed to. So I think that with all this flexibility, it's a lot to take in, I know, but everybody in this room probably not in crypto. But I think that for what you guys can take away from this is how can I implement this into my own business? I'm an insurtech. I'm having trouble with the market. I'm having trouble getting support for this thing. Okay, great. You're not getting support from the market. Well, now you can create it yourself. Now you can go out and build a business plan, spin up a strategy, and go out to a decentralized marketplace of investors that see an outsized opportunity in your type of risk and help you do things that you couldn't do before. And then from an investor landscape, right now it's super hard to get access to ILS type investments. The markets are not available. They'll shut down when there's cat risks out there. But in this type of environment, you have a 24/7 global marketplace that can continually give this outside exposure to risk in smaller investors just looking to capitalize on a new type of asset. So I know that's a lot. I appreciate everybody sticking around today, but hopefully learned a little bit more about tokenization, learned a little bit more about why it's important, and looking at this names example to show you how this can actually develop some benefits and practical application for your businesses. And I think tokenization is not just a buzzword. It's something that's going to be seen more and more in your daily lives, and it's going to unlock access increase transparency and liquidity, and increase the security of the way that we treat assets on chain. And I think that, at Aon, we're committed to continuing and innovating in this space, and our partnership with Names, and not only Names, future tokenization platforms for insurance will continue to show this. So thanks for sticking with me at the end of the day, and I hope everybody has a good rest of the conference. Appreciate it.